practicality. What else?
Sleep deprivation.
Sleep deprivation. Okay. So what can you do to help some sleep deprivation? Go to bed. Okay, that has a lot to do with time management. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we're like, even when we go to bed, not being able to sleep, thinking about,
Uh-huh.
holy crap, I gotta do this flight. How am I gonna set the DG? And that goes on until hours, I tell you.
What did I ask a week ago? Has anybody had flying dreams? Should I have asked, has anybody had flying nightmares? How about putting knowledge from your head into action in the airplane? What can help with that? Yeah, hangar flying can. Yeah. Sometimes it's not the actual physical action or knowing how much of what. Okay. That would just take practice and time. Sim can help, maybe.
I think having a plan, I know for me, I don't think ahead as much as I need to, and so I'm behind the curve. Yeah, I'm gonna do bad before I even do the motion, or whatever, add the power.
Mm-hmm.
I need to anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that kind of maybe translate. So if you know the head knowledge, then you can anticipate, when I do this, when I control the airplane, it's gonna do what I want it to do.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing how much that helps in all different areas. I mean, think about communication. You can anticipate what he's going to say to you. How much easier is it to hear what he says? Well, you got to be careful with that, because sometimes you hear what he doesn't say. But... Hey, what are some other things you guys struggle with? Now, I didn't limit it to aviation. One of my biggest struggles, and I'm guessing many of you, is pride. And that will definitely start coming out a bit as you look at different things, like the grades posted on the door. How do I compare to everybody else? The schedule book is you sign off flights. Where is everybody in relation to me? Or where am I to them? Right? So, just remind you, are you here to compare yourself to other people? Why are we here? Right? Are you working for man, or are you working for God? That doesn't mean if you're not doing well, just continue to slack off because that's what you want to do. But just be careful what's motivating you. Okay? We're here to help in any ways that we can. All right? Any questions or thoughts on that? Anybody want to go flying? Oh, the instructor's right there. No, a rainy day means I can talk to you guys for like 6 hours. That's what it is.
Then we can go flying and wash the planes.
Yeah, this is the day to wash your airplane. No, I think they have class in here at 8, so we definitely have a limit. Hey, you guys have been doing well. From what I've seen, doing pre-flights, being ready in the morning, getting planes out and those kind of things. So good job. Even going through schedules and kind of anticipating your airplane coming back and trying to flip around and get the next guy going quickly and helping each other out. So I want to encourage you there. You guys are doing a good job. SYE reading. When was that due?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. What did you need to do for it? Blackboard?
I've done it. I've had it done for like a week. I just didn't realize you're supposed to sign that.
Okay. Did everybody see the next one that's due on there when you signed on?
When I signed on.
Not getting blank faces. That's because you did it a long time ago, Matt. You were ahead of it. So it wasn't there then. So it wasn't like you didn't see it. So the next SYE packet is there. That was an encouragement, by the way.
Oh, I was like,
You did it. You did it so early. The next one wasn't there. Okay. So the next SYE packet is on Blackboard for you to go, and I think it downloads and you can read it. Okay. It's only like 10 SYEs, and that one, it has a due date on it. That's the August 30th. If you want to write that down. Okay. And I tried again to kind of pull some SYEs that we kind of have to do with some stuff that you're going to be hitting next. Okay. So solo flights, flights out in the practice area, that kind of thing. Okay? Any questions with that?
what was the due date again?
August 30th. I believe it's a Friday. Yes, sir.
Instructors get that packet too, or do we have to go on Blackboard to read
You
it?
have to go on Blackboard, or you can go on the network. Either way you want to do it. It's on the network. I can show you how to get to it. Does anybody like really not want to do it that way? Download it to their computer or iPad or something and want me to print it out for them? I have one. We'll go with one of those. Now, you still have to go online to sign it.
Right.
But if it's in front of me, I'll remember to read it if
That's
it's on
fine.
the Blackboard
Yeah.
on there. Remember.
I'm willing to print, I just don't want to print too many of them. You want a printed one? LC and Logan? Oh, okay, now we're going. Okay.
Print them all.
Forrest, John, Matt, Kelsey, Justin, and then Logan. You raise your hand too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Kurt, I'm not even giving you the option. I'm looking at the camera. He's still not here. He's gonna get it. All right. Next week, technically, I was planning on still being on our 5 periods a day schedule next week, but we're gonna change that. We're gonna go to the 2-hour blocks, which leaves it as 4 periods. Okay? So that means the class time changes a little bit. So I think I handed that sheet out to you in orientation. Anyways, it's very simple. Chapel is normal. First period starts at 8, goes for 2 hours. So it goes to 10, next period to noon. Lunch is now noon to noon 30, so 12:30. And then class will be 12:30 to 2:30, and last period 2:30 to 4:30. Or if there's no class, then obviously that will be a flight period. Okay? Reason for that, as we're moving into the solo stuff, the flight before the solo is a practice area, and it's a 1.3 period, which will be more like your periods after solo. They're more than an hour. Okay? And then the solo period, we generally will combine that. So you go up with it for about an hour with your instructor until they feel really good about it and confident in you, and then they step out, and you would continue going out and doing your 3 takeoff and landings by yourself. So we usually do that in 1 period. So, okay?
Is that going to reflect on the schedule board at the times at the top?
The times at the top will change, yeah. Now they won't be divided between classes. And starting Monday, we will be getting some help in dispatch. So the 5th years will start doing some of the dispatch responsibilities as well, so, okay? Any questions with that? Okay? Pre and post school dispatch, are there any questions with that? Are you sure, John? Okay, so what happens right after your solo?
Hopefully you come back.
What's that?
Hopefully you come back.
we have yet to not have somebody come back. So, don't be that person.
Just fly off into the
All right, so after your stage checks, or sorry, after your solo flight, then the stage check is the next period, okay? So this is your first stage check, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit, okay? So first thing you should know is there's going to be a little bit of work required of you before you can go to your stage check. So if everybody turns to page B09er. Can you train your record? Andrew, you can look on with somebody else. You can see it. Okay? This is the stage check checklist. Okay? So, after you complete the flight before the stage check, you're going to want to run through this, and this will walk you through all the paperwork, the process that needs to happen to come to your check pilot. Does that make sense? Okay? If you're scheduled for a stage check and you come to the stage check without this being done or without your paperwork done, you won't be starting the stage check, and you'll probably lose that period, and it will be scheduled probably the next day. Okay? So, we want to get this done, which means you might have to anticipate, think ahead, plan ahead, and get it done at a different time than what you were planning, right? Because this will also involve your instructor. Because you have to look over paperwork, then your instructor has to look and sign over paperwork, and then it goes to the check pilot. That make sense? So if you fly third period or fourth period, don't ignore it until the next morning and think you had all of first period to do paperwork for your second period stage check. Does that make sense? Because your instructor could be out flying that whole first period, so he's not going to be able to help you or do his part of it. Okay? The instructors might help you with this first one if there's questions on how to walk through it, that kind of thing, what you're looking for. But overall, I mean, that's why we built the checklist, so you guys can run through this stuff. Okay? Any questions on that? No? Then what page was it on, Brian?
Easier on that.
Oh, the other one. Did you name it?
B23. B23.
B23. Okay, so it's our first stage check. There's 4 of them through private, okay? And it's basically an opportunity for you to fly with another instructor, just kind of have another set of eyes on you and what you're doing, how you're doing it, and some feedback from them as well, okay? So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's say you have an instructor that's in the back of the room. Then you're up for a stage check. So, I am your stage check pilot for this flight, okay? Do you think I am rooting for you or against you? Definitely against. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Do I want to pass you or fail you? Pass. Yes, I'm rooting. We are all rooting for you. Let me make that perfectly clear, okay? For some reason, a lot of people get the impression that we are totally out to get you for some reason, and it's not true. I don't. I want all of you to do very well. Okay? Now, there's still a level at which we're going to hold, okay? So that's the bar that we've set at Moody, and that's what we're going to hold. And I hope either way it goes, you're encouraged, okay? And that's what we all want to do here, is to help you out. All right? So, the check pilot is rooting for you. Now, the check pilot is going to be very different from your instructor, okay? It's going to be different in the cockpit. Let me just warn you that way. Because your instructor has a significant problem of not keeping his mouth shut, okay? He talks a lot. Your check pilot is going to sit there and work really, really hard not to talk, okay? Because all our job is to sit there and kind of watch what you're doing. It's not because we're trying to be mean and not help you through the flight, although we shouldn't help you through the flight. You know what you're doing. So we're just sitting there watching what you're doing. Does that make sense? So we're going to be quiet. It's not to intimidate you. It's not because we want you to do bad. Does that make sense? If you ask questions, do you think we will answer them? It depends, but probably not a lot of the questions you may ask, right? Like, oh, should I take off? I don't know. That's up to you. We want to see the decision-making process that's going on in your head, right? We're not going to tell you what to do, exactly how to do it. We want to see what you would decide on what you're doing. Does that make sense? So, feel free to ask your check pilot questions, but do not be offended if we do not answer you. Okay? Are we in agreement there? Matt?
Oh, yeah, I just thought that was funny.
You believe I've never gotten that question.
I would.
I couldn't count the amount of times I've gotten that question. Okay? Does that all make sense? Daniel, you going to say something?
No?
Oh, looked like you were about to. Yes, sir.
I think that what I found in the past is that students have gotten really nervous when I pick up a pen. But just assume that I'm writing good things, not negative things.
And trust me, your flying will degrade significantly if you try to read. The other thing, too, is... Oh, that's what it is. Okay, don't think... Okay, Schultz has trained me to clear this way in a turn, but I know that Ian, he wants me to clear this totally other way for this turn. And so you try to anticipate what I want to see, and you do that. Totally opposite of what you've been trained, right? Because then I say, what in the world were you doing? Because you probably don't know how to do what you're doing well. And then Schultz goes, what in the world were you doing? That's not what I taught you. Okay, so don't try to impress the instructor trying to read into us of what we wanted. We want to see exactly what you've been trained. If you do exactly what you do for your instructor and you do not do well, whose issue is that? Yeah, it's a little bit more your instructor's. Now, obviously, it's probably still yours a little bit, but that reflects your instructor more than it does you. Does that make sense? Okay? If you do things completely opposite of what they trained you to do, that's on you. Okay? So please don't try to speculate or anticipate what we're looking for. Okay? It's very clear what we're looking for the first stage check. Biggest thing I'm looking for is safety. Do I squirm in my seat when you're taking me around the patch, or do I feel comfortable and safe that, yeah, this guy can go out and do solo flights? Okay? The procedures should pretty much be there. If we miss something, how should we catch it? Checklist. Yeah? Communications. You're doing them all. We may mess up on some of them, right? We may say the wrong thing, but if something gets missed or something, we should come back and correct it or fix it somehow. Okay? So really, it's safety, how safe you are operating and conducting that flight. Okay? And it'll be probably very similar to what you're going to get on the flight before you solo. So I'll tell you straight up, I'd like to see 3 consistent, safe landings in a row. That's all it is. Okay? They don't have to be pretty. I didn't say pretty, I said safe. Okay? So what would not be safe? Pancaking definitely would not be safe. Okay? And that would kind of have to do with either a hard landing, or sometimes we'll refer to like 3-pointing as pancaking, when you just plop all 3 wheels down at the same time. Remember, we're going to treat that nose wheel really well. But we definitely don't want to come in at a high rate of descent as well. Yeah?
Trying to force a landing that you should go around them.
Yeah. Yeah. How many of you have tried to save a balloon and it doesn't get prettier as you continue? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, Do you think you will fail if you choose to go around in that sort of situation? Heck no, you will be praised for good decision making, right? Now, if we do that like 6 times in a row, we'll probably come down and land so that we can get on the ground for the next person and go out and do it again some other time. Okay? So that can't happen forever, but please don't feel like a go-around is not an option, right? It's actually listed as one of the things we have to do in that stage check. So we will do a go-around, whether it's by you calling it or us calling it. Okay? Are there any questions that come up from stage checks? Yes, sir.
So you say 3 consecutive safe landings. Does that mean you'll continue landing until you get 3 in a row, or?
It depends. Like if I'm on number 27, we probably have run out of time. Yeah.
But just clarify, are you going to keep doing a couple more?
I'm saying just because the first one was bad, I'm not necessarily going to stop right then. Like I might. I know nerves go on stage checks. I mean, I try hard not to diminish those as much as possible. But I know it's just different flying with somebody else. So it's totally the check pilot's call as to what they're doing, and they should communicate that stuff to you. For the most part, just make decisions and do what you normally would do, and how you would do it. And if they want something different, they'll say, or they'll tell you what they want. Yep, good question. Any others?
If you fail or whatever,
Yep.
how's that communicated in the cockpit? Like, yeah.
Okay, so it depends. Meaning it isn't necessarily said right then, because a lot of times failures don't occur at one given moment. It's built up over time, if that makes sense. Okay, there are some things that if you do it, it's like, we can't move on because of that. But mostly we see multiple areas or multiple bad decisions or unsafe situations or those kind of things. So the check pilot can choose the best time to communicate that. So we may wait till we're down on the ground, off the runway, and say, let's taxi back to Moody, and on that taxi back, we may talk about it. We may wait till we're shut down, and then we'll talk about it. So we may say it in the air. Yeah, there's all different ways. So, yeah.
Is there like the same FAA catch-all, do you wish to continue this flight?
It's not mandatory for us, meaning I may choose that you don't have the option to continue the flight, but a lot of times we talk about that.
If the tears come and we're shuddering?
Yeah, then.
It depends on how much I want to push the guy. If somebody like...
So he's not tonight.
If somebody made a really bad decision to go flying, whether that's due to weather, their personal readiness, or whatever, and then they already start making bad decisions, it's like, okay, how far do I let this, like how much pride does this guy have? And how much does he need to see that broken, basically? Hopefully, we can end that sooner than later, and you can see that. But it's amazing sometimes the comments I get from students that don't even see that. So we'll make the best decisions we can to help you see the things we want you to see. So yeah, on a FAA check ride, technically the check pilot is supposed to tell you as soon as you fail. And then they have the option to let you continue or not. Or it's up to you. They have to give you the option, basically. So, and we do some of that here, sometimes we don't. It's amazing, sometimes we'll do a airwork stage check, and the first maneuver is just absolutely terrible. Totally terrible. So we may communicate, this is just unacceptable, we'll have to come back out and do this. Would you like to continue and try some of the other maneuvers, or would you like to go back to Moody? Some guy will be like, yeah, let's continue. And then they're like totally freed, and then the other maneuvers are amazing. So sometimes, it's just the stress that's built up in the guy. So, okay, so I will probably crack some jokes in the cockpit or make some comments. It's to break some of that tension a little bit. If that's not help you, just tell me to be quiet. Be quiet. Yes, sir.
If you fail a stage check, are the things that you passed, or is the whole stage check done, or can they get the credit for the maneuvers that they correct and can come back for just things that fail?
Okay, that's a good question. It all depends on the check pilot. So,
Can the recheck be with the same check pilot?
the first recheck would be, if the first recheck, so if your second flight with a guy doesn't go well, our policy has been to then switch check pilot, just to make sure it's not a check pilot issue as well, to give you a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. Okay? And then usually on that one, there's no question. On the third one, it would be a full flight, not a partial flight, regardless of what happened before. Did you have a question?
Oh, Bonnie covered it.
Wow, you read your mind, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was mine. Okay, any questions so far? When your check pilot comes out to the airplane, please don't ask them if they want to be briefed or what kind of briefing they want. Okay, the briefing, like getting in the airplane, is totally expected. So treat them just like you would a passenger. Okay, now technically, that check pilot is still PIC, right? But again, we're treating you as the PIC on this whole thing. So treat them as a passenger. Take care of them. Okay? Good?
About to sneeze. We'll be-
Oh, okay. Really had to say something. All right, I think I covered that. Are there any things you guys want to talk about? Just to make it clear, on stage checks, there's some things that if you bust the limits of the airplane, it's pretty much an automatic failure, okay? So, the biggest one is flap speed. Flap speed, okay? There's no reason to come close to it. We have a 5-knot margin. If you're close to that 5-knot margin, wait a little bit, right? There's no rush on them. So that's probably the biggest one that's broken there, okay? Or if the instructor obviously feels unsafe enough to where he takes the controls, then that probably will result in a failure at that point, okay? So it's happened all different ways. If the student thought they were cleared across the runway and they weren't, I'll let the guy go all the way up to the line because I want to see whether they'll stop, but I may have to get on the controls to stop it before we go across. Okay? If you're not cleared into airspace, I may let you go all the way up to the airspace, and then I'm going to take the controls to turn. Right? If we're coming into landing, I'll let you go as far as I can before I feel uncomfortable, and then I will take the controls. Okay? And sometimes I wait a little longer than I have the opportunity to say, I have the controls. You have the controls. I have the controls. I just may put the brakes on. Yes, ma'am.
Clarification with the flap speed on the wide arc.
Yes.
It has to be below your speed when you put them down, but once they're down,
You still need to be below the speed.
okay,
You
in the
can't-
wide arc.
In the wide arc. So not that you can't exceed 80, but you cannot exceed 85.
Right, how does that work like with a go around with your flap stuck down?
Down to full? Or what flap setting are you saying is stuck?
I think full. I'm trying to remember what we had.
Okay? If
Maybe
you're,
it was, I don't remember.
We did 20. I did 20.
okay?
But it
if-
still has to be 85 margin, right?
Yep. But think about what's your VY speed?
75.
Yeah, 75 at training, 79 at gross. So you're still below it. But even with 20 degrees of flaps, your speed is going to be slower as well, even from that speed.
Okay.
So you won't be close to it. Now, if you push forward, full power, you can get there, right? But that's That's not what we want to do. Our powerful engine. With our powerful engine. Okay. I've gone all over. Any other questions? Anything you guys want to talk about? Any issues?
I just get so nervous for checks. And like, I'm just really trying to force it and get up there, and I'm just so nervous, and it's not working out. What should I do?
Okay, so that's a good question. So, who can cancel the period or the flight? Anybody. If I cancel it, guess what that means? We failed. If you cancel it, guess what that means? Maybe. Probably an incomplete, not an incomplete, but an incomplete due to the student, and probably some pats on your back saying that's a wise decision. Now, there's a limit to that because sometimes I'm out there and there's no way we should have been out there in the first place, and we make some really bad decisions, and I haven't gotten the words out yet that you have failed, but then the student decides, oh, I'm gonna, like, I've come in for landing and bad stuff happens, and then the student's, oh, I want to taxi back to Moody. And that's, okay, that's fine, let's go back to Moody. You know, sorry, we didn't pass. What? No, I canceled it. I was like, yeah, you did, but a little late, right? Because you don't want to get yourself beyond the point where you shouldn't be. Okay? That's a good question. Yes.
Don't cancel on short final.
Don't cancel on short final. That's the other thing too is, even if you cancel in the air, if you're completely overloaded, like, we won't take the controls and fly it back for you. That's kind of like instrument training. If a guy cancels an instrument, I'm not gonna just let him go. He needs to get himself out of that situation. So you would still need to fly back and land still. Make sense? Okay. But it is definitely an option. If things aren't going well, please call it what it is, right? If you didn't recognize it soon enough, call it like it is. Okay? And we can come back out and try it later. One other thing, have you guys gone out there and wins over your limits? How do you do it? Okay, so the same sort of thing is there for a stage check, okay? You can do a stage check in winds that are out of your assigned limits, okay? What would need to happen is that you would need to talk to the check pilot, and the check pilot should assign you some temporary wind limits, which should be very similar to what your instructors are doing. And you say, hey, I need 8 knots steady, gusting 6 knots to accomplish this flight. And if I'm okay giving it to him, I'll give it to you, and then we can go out and attempt that, okay? The reason we give you temporary limits is so that you're still monitoring it, okay? So it's not just I'm on the instructor's limits and I don't think about wind at all ever again, okay? The other issue is you're still PIC, meaning you're still responsible for what happens. If you can't land the plane in it, okay, it's not our bad, right? You're saying you want to go out and try it, and you can do it, okay? So it's still on you. Does that make sense? So that's why, especially here at the beginning, I would go back to my instructor and say, hey, wind is 1 knot out of my limits. I'm thinking about doing this with my check pilot. What do you think? Would you recommend it, or would you say, no, stay away from it? Try it tomorrow morning or something. Okay? So we have the ability to work around it, but again, communication is key there. All right? Sweet. Well, have a great weekend. Hopefully we can get some flights in today, but we'll see. All right? Thanks, guys.